Hello and welcome to the Winning Sometimes podcast. I almost said I'm Matt. I'm Clint and I'm here with Matt and Emiliano. And we are three gamers, friends, and tech workers that just want to hang out. So, yeah, we've got a lot of topics today.
It's probably the most accurate intro to the show like ever. we just want to hang out and you have to suffer through it.
Yeah. We have a couple things we want to talk about today. First, Unity controversy, which if you don't know, Unity is a game engine that is kind of the backbone of a huge amount of games, like out of the total like group of games in just out on the market. And they kind of committed seppuku for profit, but I don't think they got profit. Or I don't think it worked. And then we also might touch on some of the layoffs that's been happening, and it kind of brings up an interesting comparison because we don't work in the games industry, and but we do work in tech. So like we've kind of been exposed to some of the strategies that companies use for profit, and we have thoughts. So before that, though, well, how you guys doing? Like, what's been up with you guys? Have you been? Excuse me. What's been up with you guys? What have you been playing?
I'll let Emiliano go first.
Oh, me? Okay. I want to say I've been playing Destiny, but in actuality,
You want to say?
Well,
Is this regret?
That's my
Is this real time live regret?
That's my no. But lately, as of this week, I've been playing Warhammer 40K because it just came out on the Xbox, and it's been really fun. And it's crossplay now, so if you guys want to join in and got Xbox Game Pass, you can join me. I'm currently a zealot, but people are psychers when I've been playing with them, and that looks fun. Like they're shooting brain bullets at people, and it looks awesome. But
Brain bullets, like wheat?
Telekinesis or lightning. I don't know what, but
I think he said brain.
Okay. Oh, brain
yes.
bullets. Got it.
Brain bullets.
Okay. I thought you were like they're shooting the food supplies of our enemies at them.
Oh, great! No. But
it's
really
game is
really
this now?
fun. What's that?
Warhammer 40K. What game?
Darktide. Warhammer 40K
which game?
Darktide. Darktide.
Darktide. Okay.
Oh, Darktide. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a first-person shooter.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's been out on PC for a bit. I think there are a lot of issues. They just released a big patch to make it easier for leveling and just make it funner. I think they reworked some of the classes and the perks and stuff. And I've been having fun with it. Like they got a lot of different weapons. They got a lot of different melee, a lot of different abilities. And yeah, if you get a chance, check it out. So
cool.
How about you, Matt? What have you been playing?
So for me, probably the game that I've been playing the most of is I jumped on the Cyberpunk train. Cyberpunk came out with their 2.0 update at some point in the past, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. In the recent past, it came out. And then just a week after that, they released the DLC, Phantom Menace or whatever. And so I've been playing that, and it's been really fun. Like, it's not super RPG.
Did you just say Phantom Menace?
Yeah, it's Phantom
Liberty.
Thank you, Phantom Liberty.
I just totally went straight over my head, and yes, okay.
I was close.
Yeah,
I was like
close.
50% of the way there.
I was like, something I like. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh well. But yeah, I've been playing Phantom Liberty or just Cyberpunk. I had never played Cyberpunk before, so like I
Okay.
picked it up and started a new character, and it's been like really, really fun. Like it's a little on rails. You know, it's not like if you've been playing like Baldur's Gate or something like that, and you're like, oh, I want to be able to change everything and have every decision have consequence. It's not that. Like it's just not. But it's the voice acting is so good. The story is pretty good. Um, like when and don't like at me about this. I think this is a very common opinion, but like when the low point of like the story and the acting and things like that is Keanu Reeves, when you're like, oh, like out of everybody, he probably does the worst. Like you know, it's done pretty well. So
Yeah.
I've been
Well,
playing a lot of that. Mm-hmm.
that's funny because that has been said that role is like his life's role, which is like maybe not a very like expert opinion, but people say that his role is made for him in as Johnny Silverhand. Can't remember his name,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's it.
yeah, he's great and I like it a lot. He's an asshole. He's troubled. He is literally living inside your head, and that's cool. I'm glad to hear you're liking it because I played it a lot at launch, and I had a lot of stability issues, but like it looked great. It played mostly great. Had zero expectations, but you know, I was generally happy with it. I thought it was like a 7 or 8 out of 10, and I got really sucked in hard. I didn't finish it, so um, how is the 2.0 update? Like, how does the progression feel, and how does the just like the system, the RPG systems, like role playing. I know people had
Sure.
complaints that the role playing wasn't that good, and that the like a lot of the perks didn't really matter. Like, how did it
Yeah.
feel for you?
So obviously, I did not play at launch. And yes, for those of you who knew me back when Cyberpunk launched, I gave it a lot of shit. And like I told people, I was like, like Cyberpunk's going to be trash. Like I was one of the absolutely negative people about it because like I recognized like a hype train when I saw it.
Yeah,
So I don't know for sure, but like from the complaints that I remember from the time and like what I've seen online. So the perk trees have been completely redone in 2.0. And so that makes the play styles, in my opinion, like very different. And I think the only thing I don't like about it is that you can only reset your perks once. So like you get a free reset. So if you decide like you spec'd into intelligence or whatever, and you're like, oh well, I want to be like more melee focused, you can respec, but you only get to do it once per game.
what?
And so, yeah,
Just like once,
and
like
so ever.
it's an NPC that's like, okay, I'll do it for you this once, and then they
Oh no, no, no,
refuse.
no! It's literally just a button in the game that like I want to respec. Like you go into your skill tree and you say I want to respec, and it's like okay, but if you do this, you can never do it again.
That sounds
Uh,
ridiculous. Why would you?
so, and that's the thing that I'll say about it is that I understand it, like I get it, because I think the idea is if you want to, like you went into like an intelligence build or whatever, and you were like, oh, okay, now I want to try like a melee build. They want you to do a full playthrough. They want you to start the game over, and so I get that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I understand the thought process there. Um, but what I will
I
say
don't.
is that it absolutely does make a difference. Like it 100%, um, like you can be very bad at things, like because you're really good at something else. And so like I do a lot of quick hacks and things like that. And my guy, or I guess chick, because I'm playing as a girl, she's really good at being quick hacks. Sucks. Like she's a in glass cannon. Like she has no like I have like the minimal amount of points in body or whatever. And so like one shot and I'm like, oh god, I gotta heal because, I don't have any HP. But absolutely glass cannon. So yeah, I think that aspect of it is definitely fixed. The armor and things like that is all attached to cyberware now. and so you
Really?
can just dress however you want, and it doesn't, your outfit does not. You don't have to look ridiculous while you're playing
Okay.
the game.
Cool. That was a huge part of it for me because the memes that you see where it's like typical RPG character and it's like this heartfelt emotional scene and then it cuts to the character. The character's
Yeah.
like wearing a freaking clown hat with a cowboy hat and like a spiked jacket and it's like, this looks stupid. Like that was me in my first playthrough of Cyberpunk because I was wearing everything because there were such impactful stats on your items that like I had like 3 sets of things, like one set of clothes for strength or armor or something, one set of clothes for like damage output, and then one set of clothes for not looking like a stupid dumbass. Like
My set of clothes for when I think a cutscene is coming.
exactly. That's interesting. I will have to see it because I played it at the beginning, and yeah, the perks didn't really matter. It was kind of like everything kind of like raised, all of your stats kind of raised like a waterline, and like I did kind of focus on quick hacks and like pistol damage, so I could do a lot of one shot damage. But then I had a buddy who was doing the gorilla arms, and so he was like literally just destroying everything on the screen in a matter of seconds, and I'm over here like sneaking around and shooting things. It was like my choice to role play in that way, but I don't think I had to. Like I definitely had every single type of gun and quick hacks and grenades, and I think I even had a set of gorilla arms if I wanted to do that. So it's good to have choices matter, in a choice-based open world game. It's good to have choices matter. I hate that you can only respec once though. Like what?
I agree.
What
That's
the
like
heck
the
is
one
the
thing
point of that?
yeah.
Especially with a game that is so big and open source, like not open source, open world, and you have levels to get before you can actually see what a class can do or like what a playstyle can do. How are you ever supposed to have enough information to decide whether or not you should respec? I guess they're really depending on the internet to like provide people that have done it before and make posts about, okay, this is what a melee build looks like, so that you can follow those guides and actually not waste your respec.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see like what the perks, like you hover over the perks before, and you can see what they do, obviously from the very beginning of the game. But just because you know what a perk does, it gives me this ability or plus 5% this or whatever, does not necessarily mean that you're gonna like that if you pick it. And so that's the thing, because there's definitely been some stuff where I'm like, and and maybe not the perk, but the skill, whatever. There's like layers of perks or whatever, and so you can refund some perks, but you like the individual ability perks, but you can't refund you can only respect the big perks like intelligence, cool, things like that once.
You can refund
I think
perks but not stats.
Correct. Yes, there you go. Thank you.
Okay, so you can only respec stats once.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can never max out every stat.
Okay.
There's not enough levels to max out every stat. Yeah.
I mean, Ruin's a perfectly good power fantasy, but we probably have enough of that in the gaming industry.
Well, and this will be my one complaint about the combat and you'll never probably ever hear me say this again, is that it's too easy. Like, I suck at games. Like, I'm very bad at games. And like I'm playing on very hard because like I'm playing on like the hardest difficulty because it's literally just that easy. Like, and maybe I just like accidentally ground out. Like I ran too many side missions and I'm a higher level than I should be. I don't know.
That happened to me, it's for sure.
It's not well, and it's not hard to do that. And the game I don't think is challenging enough.
Okay.
And
I think Emiliano, I think Matt's just telling us to get good. He's like, I'm playing on very hard and I'm all specced out in quick hacks and, I die in 2 shots, but it's too easy.
But like the thing is, like I have died more from falling off of things than I have from actual combat.
That's fair. Cool.
But
I'm glad.
What about you?
I'm just good. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we've spent a lot of time talking about Cyberpunk. What are you playing?
So I am planning on playing Cyberpunk, but I've been trying to beat Baldur's Gate first, and that I'm playing with a buddy, so it's kind of going slower than I want it to. So on the side, I was playing Starfield. Baldur's Gate I love, and I'll talk about that in a sec. But Starfield is Starfield is the best 6 out of 10 game I've ever played. And I know a lot of people are saying it's the best 7 out of 10 game. I enjoyed it. It was fun. And then I like kind of got burnt out and I was like, I don't want to leave this game before beating it, like I did with Skyrim, because it's not as involved as Skyrim by at all. So I speed ran beating it. And then when I beat it, it was like, oh, you can play a New Game Plus. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm good. And so
Yeah.
it was really fun at the beginning. And then I think the primary criticism is that things start to feel really samey over and over again. You see the same type of outposts on different planets because it's like Starfield is Skyrim in space. So that means you can go to different planets, you can go to different star systems. It's all within the Milky Way. You can actually go to Earth and see its like its atmosphere has been stripped, and so it doesn't support life anymore. And it's really sort of depressing, but they didn't really spend that much time building that out. So like the world building is mid, and the combat was fun, but everything just kind of starts to blend together. And there's like 3 different types of people. You got the Free Star, which is basically the Wild West United States planets. And then you have the UC, which is like the European Union United Colonies. And then you have, I guess there's 5. The Ecliptic, which I never found out who they were. They're like mercenaries or something, or mercenary pirates. And then there were actual pirates. And then there are cultists. And that's it. So anyway, it just was not as fun as I thought it was going to be. It was very fun playing a Bethesda game, but that's just kind of nostalgia factor. At first I thought Fallout 4 was worse than this game, but now I kind of think Fallout 4 is better than this game. I burnt out on Fallout 4, never finished it, but I still like the narrative and the world building and like just the little details that you find, the reasons for exploration are always there. So like Starfield, I kind of ran out of reasons to explore, and I ran out of reasons to play. I mean,
Hold
I don't
on,
know.
Ken,
I think I spoiled it. Oh, go ahead.
Hopefully you can hear me. I'm having some issues on my end, but Marco
Okay.
Style, he's a YouTuber, did a analysis of it, and part of what he found is a lot of the conversations that you choose in that game, in the end, don't matter. They all lead to the same end point. So even if you have like a street smart or like smooth talk or whatever,
sure.
it gives you more options. It gives you more flavor text, but the end point of that string is always the same no matter which one you choose.
Yeah, I would say so. It's kind of like a roller coaster. It's like the choices don't really matter. Because you can go be a pirate. You can join that faction and then completely piss off the rest of the galaxy. But she doesn't really lock you out of like traveling in their space and going and still being a part of Constellation, which is the Explorers group, and finding out what happens with the artifacts, which is like some kind of unknown alien like technology left behind you're trying to figure out. So yeah, I totally agree with that. It's also I feel like they had maybe like 10% of the writer staff that they had with Skyrim. Like there was one storyline with factions in the United Colonies where you join their volunteer. It's like, you ever see those police vehicles that are like community volunteer police people, where they go in and they just report things. They don't actually have any like badge or like
community
weapons
watch kind of things.
Yeah, but they've got like a car and they've got a uniform. It's kind of like that, except you're armed and you're a captain. It's like they call it the Vanguard, where you can join it and be a part of the United Colonies as a volunteer, like militia. And the first thing they have you do is like the one of the most powerful admirals like sends you on a like undercover mission. And I won't say like more about that because it's kind of a spoiler. And then it was actually pretty long, and you're like gaining the trust of the people you're undercover with. And it was actually, I mean, it wasn't super realistic, but like it was kind of cool. And then you beat it, and everyone's like, holy crap, you like saved the world, this is amazing. Like there was this biological weapon that was going to do things to all of the colonies because it was biological, and it was traveling on the ships of humans ships, and was going to cause a lot of issues, and you help with that. And then you go to the Freestar, and you can just be a deputy. It's like Wild West, so you can just be deputized, and then you do the same kind of thing where you do this big thing and it has a big impact in the colony, all the colonies. And they're like, you end up killing this really high profile person because they ended up being corrupt. And I won't say any more than that. I don't think you have to, but I did. I ended up killing that person. And they're like, wow, never would have expected that. Well, you're a full-time ranger now. Congrats. And then they walk away. And it's like, this has massive impact on the rest of the colonies. Like, this person was the head of this organization, and that organization you see everywhere in the game. It's like, okay, that's it. Good job. That was a shame. Too bad he's
That
dead.
was crazy.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like two very differently written storylines that one didn't even make sense after I started thinking about it at the end, but it was fun to play. The other one didn't make sense and wasn't fun to play. And that was like the two best storylines in the game. Maybe. That's probably arguable, but I don't want to spoil anything. Anyway, Starfield was meh, but I'm glad I played it. I had fun. It was nostalgic. I wish they spent another 2 years building out more stories like Skyrim and more reasons to explore.
I wish they had just taken everything and condensed it down into like 10 planets.
Sure. That could have been fine. And if they made it as expansive on every planet, like keep the same amount of like people who play it are only going to be the ones getting this, but keep the same amount of expansive, like ground walkable areas, but fill it in with a lot more interesting things, and like have colonists that are like, having a commune, and they're like shooting anybody on sight, but like you save one of their people, and so you get in there and they're like, well, why are you shooting everyone on sight? And it's like, I'm just literally spitballing a potential story like that they could have put, but you don't experience any of that. You literally just, every planet has like 6 minerals that you scan to like check a box, and then you have like 4 different types of points of interest, which they're literally just geological formations, and then you could maybe have 1 or 2 like buildings to explore, maybe more, maybe like 5 or 6, but like it takes you 5 minutes to get there on foot and nothing happens in between. So what's the point of doing it? Because you're just going to find spacers, which are like homeless people. Like, they're not homeless people, but a bad example, they're like pirates or like, they're not even settlers, they're just like thugs basically, that'll shoot you on sight, and they'll shoot anybody.
Oh man, wow.
Well, you find them in abandoned like, research facilities and stuff. They're like, yeah. Anyway, I think I liked it and I was okay with it, but then the more I thought about it, I was like, that kind of wasn't that great. Which is unfair a little bit because I'm playing through Baldur's Gate right now as well. And Baldur's Gate, I would never have expected how much I love that game. Like, I kind of love that game. It's amazing. And I won't go on about Baldur's Gate because I don't want to do like a compare and contrast with Starfield, but I would 100% recommend you play Baldur's Gate unless you're intimidated by like technical systems in a game. Which I don't know where I'm going with that, but I just want to tell a story because like there's this devil. Oh, My camera is bored of what I'm saying.
So his camera tries to face track him. For those of you who are watching the video, his camera tries to face track him, and Ronan and I are convinced that it keeps trying to look at the people on the poster behind him.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. I mean, Sephiroth is son of a bitch.
Sephiroth.
Oh, actually, no, it's Hobbs. He just wants to
No,
see
I
Hobbs.
think it's Sephiroth because he's the center of the frame.
Yeah, I mean, Sephiroth is
Well-
more interesting than me for sure.
I'll accept cat cam.
You know what? I'm fine with that. I'll just have one eye on the screen.
Just be in the corner of it.
There is this devil who's like, making a deal with the devil kind of devil, where, Futurama.
Are we talking about Baldur's Gate, or is this
Baldur's
real
Gate,
life
yes.
here? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, sorry. Continue.
Baldur's Gate, yeah. And yes, I made a deal with the devil.
Oh, I was just checking. I was like, how do I get in on that?
And he keeps on trying to entice you with a deal to like save the issue. Like you've got this psychic tadpole that's going to turn you into Mind Flayer, but for some reason it's not. And you're trying to figure out why and get it out of your head. And he's like, I can solve your problems. You just have to sign a contract with me and then give up your left, leg or something. And we've avoided, signing his contract this whole time until he offered us something that has like a huge impact on the end of the game. And we have been playing it looking up guides, which that might be blasphemy for some people, but like I don't know how many times I'm going to play this game. And so I don't want to be dissatisfied with what happens. And there's so much you can do. Choices matter so much, probably like 3 or 4 times more than Cyberpunk. In a way, like the game still follows a trajectory, but like what happens and who is there is really dependent on the choices you make. Anyway, we decided to like not honor the contract for the devil, and we decided to like go to the devil's house and steal the contract and rip it up. And I highly recommend doing that if you can figure that out in the game. And it culminated in a battle. I'll just say it as generally as possible to avoid spoilers. That was my favorite battle, possibly of all time. Like my favorite boss battle of all time. It was amazing. The music was like, it was so good. Okay, the camera thinks I'm interesting. Yay. The music, like the boss starts singing with the music. That's all I'll say. Like with the soundtrack as you're fighting him, and it was like this crescendo of like emotion, and like he's so spitting mad at you, and you're like struggling because it is the hard, like I think people say it's the hardest boss fight in the game. And that fight alone kind of like cements this game as like one of my favorite games of all time. So I have really been enjoying the heck out of Baldur's Gate. Once I beat that, then I'll probably start Cyberpunk. Maybe this winter I'll start another Baldur's Gate playthrough with just myself. I don't know. But yeah.
No, the real question is, when are we all actually going to run a real D&D campaign? That's the real question that comes out of this.
The Baldur's Gate, since it's based off of D&D and the systems kind of do a lot for you, like I would totally be down for that. I think it really depends on who you play D&D with. Like you guys have told me that before. So if we got the right people, let's do it.
I know someone who will DM for us.
Really? Okay. That's like the
absolutely
most difficult part.
I know all the nerds, man.
I feel like maybe 4 might be a good, like 5 total. Maybe Rachel get in on that.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, we can talk about it. It really depends on if we want to do like a full campaign or like a one shot, because like a lot of one shots are made for like 3 or 4 people.
Yeah.
Because they realize like you're playing this on one day or whatever. But yeah, we'll talk about it after hours, after we're done here.
Cool. Was it after hours? You want to play a game? We could play Baldur's Gate and winning sometimes after
Oh,
hours.
that's also true.
Or Warhammer 40k Darktide.
That's true. That's true. It's a different speed.
Or Monster Hunter, since you like complex systems.
I like complex systems that make sense
Oh.
or are intuitive and are
All
not
right, so
are generally non-repetitive and
I know we've got topics we want to talk about, but do y'all mind if I derail us for just a minute?
sure, go for it.
So, y'all may have, if y'all have been listening to some of our past episodes and things like that, y'all know how much Crack likes to rag on the UI of Monster Hunter.
Uh-huh.
Holy Starfield. Like, that UI was so unintuitive. Like, it drove me nuts. Like, I hated the Starfield UI. Like, in the first few hours, I was like, I'm gonna quit this game just because of the UI. And I loved Monster Hunter, and I was like, oh yeah, the UI for Monster Hunter, like you get used to it after like the first hour or so. And man, Starfield drove me nuts. Like, oh, anyway,
That's funny.
Because
I
Monster
had the
Hunter
exact,
UI is good.
No, it's not. I had the exact same reaction you had to Monster Hunter with Starfield. It's like it's kind of sucks, but I know how to do things. Once you figure out that you kind of have to press buttons to make things appear, then then it works. I had to look it up a few times. I did eventually start modding it though. Like it's called Star UI. So if you're playing on PC in Starfield, there's a couple mods that I highly recommend: Star UI and the Starfield FSR Replacer is the two ones that really matter, because the performance in Starfield really sucks for NVIDIA graphics cards. Like, I have a monster system. I should not be getting 30 FPS anywhere. So, yeah. Well, that's probably a good point to move on. I don't know how much we should talk about it, because it's kind of been overblown in the games industry, like, news cycle. Not overblown. It's been widely covered. Let's put it that way. But the Unity pricing scandal is kind of nuts, and there's a couple things I'd like to say about it that I haven't really seen people talking about. But I guess let's cover a little bit about what it is. Essentially, Unity is a game engine that game developers can pick up, and it's got a physics system already for you. All you have to do is supply it with like textures and art, and you can make 3D games, 2D games in it, and you can like code your own characters and actions and events and stuff like that to make your game. And it does a lot of the legwork for you to provide a way to have a video game, and you don't have to spend millions of dollars building something that is like current and modern. You can just start and fill it in with the content. That's the idea. And it's been huge for a lot of games, both AAA, AA, and indie games. Chances are, if you name 5 games from the last 5, 10, 15 years, actually I don't know if Unity's 15 years old, at least the last 10 years, chances are any one of those 5 games, like 2 of those 5 games or more, are going to be running on Unity. And Unity came out last month and said that for every time that you install a game using the Unity engine, the game developer that sells that game must pay Unity 20 cents per install, which is kind of nuts. And they were saying that it's retroactive, so every game that has Unity now. You're muted, Matt.
I apologize. I did not realize it was retroactive. That's
what
crazy.
they were trying to pull. Yeah.
Yep.
Every game that's ever been installed that has the Unity game engine, they were trying to extract 20 cents per install. And there's a couple things that are wrong with that, which there are many ways to kind of get the analysis of like the impact. We're probably missing some details on the contract changes. But there's the fact that it is retroactive, which is like, I don't even know if that's legal. Like there might be some kind of contract clause that says you are agreeing to any service updates or service contract updates when you agree to the terms and conditions of Unity. But like, I don't know if that's enforceable. So like, it may not even be legal that you can do that. And then sorry, I'm trying to remember.
Wait,
The biggest
can
things
we
about
touch on that for a second? Because that's
Yeah, sure.
actually a really good point. Because I didn't realize it was retroactive, and like, so effectively these companies had, like, these past games, these companies had already paid to be using the Unity engine,
Yes.
and now, like, because obviously if you're like buying an engine or deciding on it, you're not just gonna be like, well, let's just like, throw something at the dartboard. Like, they analyze all this sort of stuff, so they made the decision to go with Unity years ago,
Yeah.
have already paid those licenses fees and everything like that, and now retroactively they're like, oh, by the way, that what you signed up for 5 years ago is no longer the case. We're
You
now,
now
and it's
owe
beyond your
us.
control. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
already on Steam or whatever. So you either pull it off Steam or you start paying us, for that amount. That's a great point. I did not. I obviously did not know that was what they were saying. But yeah, I don't know how that's actually legally enforceable. Like, I don't know how. I mean, sure. Again, not a lawyer. Do not take legal advice from me in any way, shape, or form. But like, I don't know how. I'm assuming if Unity did it, they had their legal team look at it and they're like, "Oh yeah, totally, we can do
Oh
this."
yeah.
But
Well, I don't know.
well,
I don't know about that.
well, so the
It's
the caveat I'm saying,
dubious.
I would assume they would do that, but I've also seen where I work, our legal team's like, "Yeah, totally, we can do that," and then we can't. They're just
Right.
very hopeful.
Yeah, your legal team is made up of professional opinion. They can provide professional opinions. It doesn't matter what they think once you go up in a court. Then it really depends on the law and the interpretation of the judge. And the proper, the process being followed, legal proceedings. So it's like, it may not be. I have a little bit of education in contract law, but it's like very basic college, like undergraduate education. It's like business law. Very basic 101 tenets of contract law is that it must be beneficial to both parties. And if you've already agreed on the benefits between the two parties of the contract, that I will use the Unity engine, that is the benefit that I get. I will get the updates of the engine, and I will pay this subscription license. There's probably more benefits on either side of the contract. And then they suddenly just decide, okay, for the same benefit, you are going to be paying this telescoping, retroactive, unlimited amount. It's like, it's free real estate. It's unlimited money. It's amazing. It's like that is not beneficial to one of the parties. So like, that just on that basic 101 level doesn't really make sense. So the other part of it is like, you don't know how to collect that information. Like, how are you supposed to know how much money you owe based on installs? You, as a developer, could potentially write code to phone home every time you install. Like, the installer is a specific group of code. It's like a package that runs and places the application on your computer in the places, specific configuration that you need for it to run successfully. Like, that is your job as a software developer or software company, to produce an installer that works and gets your software to work. So you could phone home during that install so that you know how it's installed or how many times it's installed. But how is Unity supposed to enforce that? Unity doesn't have that. Like, it's also like offline software too. So like, that's the thing that I wanted to bring up, is like, this is unprecedented.
Hold on,
Like,
hold on.
what software
but
can you charge per
uh,
install?
a couple like months ago, was it Wizards of the Coast did this kind of the similar thing with their
The
Dungeons and
retroactive,
Dragons,
I
and it was a new license. So basically, this would supersede all the other ones. So
yeah,
there was a time period where before it would take effect, and after it took effect, you had to agree to these terms, or not. You were not able to use their stuff, basically.
right. And that's
So
honestly that's more common. And
Yeah.
like if you subscribe to Spotify, for instance, as a music service, and they update the terms and services, if you do not agree to the changes in the terms of service, then you no longer can use the service. So that's the similar type of thing that a lot of terms of services use, which is like we can update the contract. If you do not agree to the updates, you can no longer use the service.
Oh,
And
so
it's
so
it's the same kind of license thing. It's still crap, right? It's a
yeah.
huge problem, which that's a whole nother rabbit hole that we could get down. Is like,
Oh wait, so I'm sorry because I thought you knew he was doing that. They weren't doing that. They weren't changing the license. They're just saying this is the new one. You or
well,
how? Because
hang on. It's so what you're talking about with Wizards of the Coast. It was their basically their intellectual property of like the characters and the concepts and things like that. And so it was basically like for instance like Dungeons and Dragons. You know, like there's 5e and there's like the official books, and then there's people who like homebrew and write their own stories set in the same world. And what the new Wizards of the Coast thing was basically saying is like, hey, if you're going to write your own story set in our world, you are going to have to pay us something. So it was basically attacking that. Whereas this is literally anything that has ever been written, you're going to have to pay us. So it was the Wizards of the Coast was a moving forward thing about how you can use their concepts moving forward, whereas Unity is like, if you've ever looked at our stuff too long, you owe us money. Or that's my interpretation of it.
right.
okay, yes,
But
it's different. It's different.
imagine imagine having any kind of software that you download on the internet. Like you click download and it downloads a executable .exe file, or if you're on Mac, I forget what the extension is, but it's like a package to install. Like imagine Chrome. It's like you download Chrome because you don't want to use Safari or Internet Explorer or Edge, I guess, nowadays. And then Chrome's like, hey, you got to pay $1 to install every time you install. It's like, oh, you had to reinstall it. Sorry, you got to pay another $1. It's like imagine a world that every single time you want to change your computer for incrementally, like a tiny amount to make it better at all, you have to pay money. Like I don't want to live in that world. That's like such.
Can I make that world darker?
Slimy. Go ahead.
So
it's October. We're in spooky month.
All right. So because this was my first thought when I heard this sort of stuff. So let's say that Clint, you write a game using Unity or whatever, and for whatever reason, Emiliano has gotten really pissed off at you, and like y'all have had a falling out, and so. Like you were saying, you've got some sort of script that phones home and tells Unity
how many times
that you've installed it, so you can pay them their share or whatever. And Emiliano, like sniffs the packets or whatever and realizes what that message is that phones home to Unity whenever he installs it, and then just basically creates a botnet. And on October 1st or whatever, he's like, just send the message 1,000,000 times.
Yep.
And so you've got this
$1,000,000
botnet.
times 20 cents.
Yep, and that's some number I'm not going to calculate.
200,000.
200,000. Yeah.
Yep, $200,000.
Because
because one person
got
quote
pissed.
unquote installed it 1,000,000 times, which he didn't really. But Unity's not going to know that. So that's another thing people were talking about. Is like you can literally financially rage cancel any company that you don't like by just literally installing it and uninstalling it and reinstalling it. And like you said, there are many ways to go about that. I could spin up, 1,000 Docker containers in the cloud and all install and uninstall, and however long that takes, I could probably like, if you can't directly phone home and use like an HTTP request, to hit that endpoint for the Unity metadata collection, I could probably actually uninstall and reinstall the game 1,000, 2,000 times an hour for like $100 an hour or $100 a day or something like that. You probably could really lower that price and optimize that. So it's ridiculous.
Just throw it. Yeah, throw it in some like elastic cloud or whatever, and just it's like have a script to uninstall and reinstall all day, every day.
Yeah, and then you get multiple people doing that, and then you get companies doing that to each other, because companies have a financial incentive to be competitive against. So if you've got, heck, Unity could do it. No one would be the wiser, because Unity's got all the data.
This is a dark future. I'm not happy I took us here.
Yeah. Charging money for installs is economically unsustainable for the world. Like, it's just not a thing. And I could see it being a thing in a dystopian future. So it's like nobody's thought of that, or maybe they have, but they just have been shunned by, the rest of the world with their head screwed on right. Like, you have there I will say there do exist licensing setups where you only have a few installs, but it's not unlimited. You can't just freely install. It's like, no, you can only, like, Ableton is a music software that I use, a digital audio workstation. I only have 3 installs of it, period. But it won't let me install it and use it if I ever run out. I have to like deactivate installs and then reinstall it. So it's not like I'm paying for it. It's just I'm licensed for 3 installs. So like that kind of system does exist. It's just like having just like free charge for free installation. It's like giving kids, giving kids a firearm. I don't want to go that dark, but like just like,
wow,
like grant it's very unsafe.
Clint, first homeless people, now kids with guns.
No,
what's going on, dude?
Stop.
He also, just so you know, he played Baldur's Gate as a murder hobo. Like that's really how he went about it.
It's funny because my friend who I'm playing with, he describes himself as chaotic neutral, which I would say he's kind of chaotic evil, but that's another conversation. I constantly have to pull the rope, pull his chain, like yank his chain back. I'm like, stop. No, we're not killing this. Stop. Well, who are you stealing from right now? Okay, why is the guard talking to you? Dude, stop. It's hilarious. I'm not a paladin. I'm not playing as a paladin, but it sure feels like it sometimes. Yeah, so Unity is nuts. They did roll it back, but it took about 2 weeks. And they're actually still doing the per install thing, but it is only for companies that have made. Actually, I should look up the new terms because it's kind of complex. They aren't runtime fees, is what they're calling it. Runtime fees every time you uninstall it. It's not going away, but it's only going to happen for like the top 5% of earners that use Unity Engine. For everyone else, they're switching to a profit sharing method, which is like 2.5% per sales. So 2.5% of your sales, you owe 2.5% of your revenue to Unity, which is, it sucks, but
pretty standard for most game engines. I don't know about the percentage, but a percentage is normally how it works.
Yeah. And Unreal has been doing that for time immemorial. It's 5%.
Well, but then you take into like aren't all these storefronts charging 30% on top of that for any sales?
But the customer pays that.
The customer pays that.
Because I thought they came out of the customer pays for the game, but the developer
I see what you're saying. No,
pays like Steam
I'm wrong.
Or the App Store or Epic, the 30%, right?
Yeah, Google Play.
Each one has its own percentage. Because I want to say that was one of Epic's big things where they were like, oh, we're only taking 15% and Steam is taking 30 or something like that.
Steam, Microsoft, Apple are doing 30. I thought Steam said they were doing a short time less, but I thought they're back up to 32 now. I don't. It's hard to keep track.
You are right. In order to have it listed, you have to agree to give a portion of the profits to whoever is listing it. Which, like, again, I'm not opposed to that sort of stuff because, like, think about the game engine. You have to have a game engine to have your game, right? So if someone else developed that, I feel like they should be compensated for their time. You have to have a storefront to sell games, unless again you're creating your own.
Yeah,
And
data
so
transfer
whoever hosts,
costs and things like that, like bandwidth costs, those are real
absolutely,
things. Like there are
and
data centers that must house that data, and you have to help pay for that. And you know,
yeah, and so like I fully agree with that. What I don't particularly agree with, and I think Steam kind of falls into this category a little bit, is those rates being the same forever. And I know this is kind of changing our topic a little bit, but like, what other than like maintenance, what has Steam done in the past 5 years? Like, what features have been added? What development has really been done other than, keeping status quo, keeping it working, keeping things downloadable, all that sort of stuff. And so if the platform is no longer innovating, where is that money going? It's obviously not going to pay new developers and things like that. Like, that just lining, the proverbial bodycotic's pockets or whatever. So that's where I start to have problems with things like cover the cost, but I think it really quickly can drop into that like super corporate greed. We have to make all of the money possible kind of stuff, and you got something on that, Ronan?
Well, Bobby Kotick is EA. You're thinking Gabe Newell for Steam.
Yes, thank you. I couldn't remember his name.
Well, okay, this is a touchy topic, which we probably shouldn't spend too much time because we do want to touch on industry layoffs before the end of this episode.
But see, I think that is related to this corporate
Steam,
greed thing we're talking about.
Well, Steam is a touchy subject because people kind of have laid down stakes in the sand or whatever the whatever the term is, over like Epic Games or Steam or Google Play or whatever. It's like it's almost like console wars now. But like Steam kind of is still for the customer. I would say a large part of the maybe not a large. I actually don't know what the ratio is, but they spend some of that profit that they make, that 30%, on. I was about to say something that I don't actually know is true. Who pays for Steam sales?
And that's the thing that, like, I don't know either. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to pretend like I know that, like, oh, like, none of this money is going to developers and it's all just going like to corporate stock buybacks and crap like that. But that is the point. Like, I don't know. And so I don't like that Steam has continued. Steam has been the industry standard for game downloads for however long, and it's still charging 30%. And where is that money going? Like, I want to see like numbers. I want to see like profit and loss charts and like, distribution of money. Like, where is that money actually going? Because I don't know.
Does Steam still have a shovelware issue where like you got these developers dumping crap games on there
to some degree? Yeah,
money. Okay, I wasn't sure because I saw
it's not as bad as it was.
Yeah, I remember seeing some, like, I think Jim Sterling doing a thing on like
the
bad
Steam
games
Greenlight
and just how horrible
and
flipping assets and just bad. And anyway,
to be fair, nearly every market has that problem. The Nintendo Switch has that problem, and that's like a you have to pay for the cartridge and distribution and licensing on the console. Like, you still get people doing crappy asset flips. Go look up. I'm pretty sure you can look it up on YouTube, but there are, what is the worst rated game on the Nintendo Switch, and it is totally just an asset flip. So I think my point that I was going to make, and I don't really have a ton of backing it up, so this is really just my opinion, but I think Steam is much more customer focused than, like the Activision Blizzard launcher or the Epic Games Store. You can ask for refunds within what is it, 180 minutes played or something like that, like 2 hours, maybe it's 120 minutes. Like you can play a game, have it suck, and then say, hey, this game sucks, I regret spending this money because there's no way I can actually, you know, there's no way I can actually like preview the thing. There's no demo for this game, so I want to return it, and Steam will let you do it. You can't do that on any other digital marketplace that I know of. I mean, there could be one. I could be wrong that you can do it on some others, but not any of the big ones that I know of. I personally like Steam sales. Like I don't know who pays for them, and it's kind of interesting to me because it's like a cultural thing in Steam. Why don't other people do that? Like I know that like the PlayStation Store and Epic Games Store, they've started to do more sales, but like for years on PC, the PC like market, there was no sales, and people kind of were getting pissy about how like digital games, like there's a lot of doom and gloom around digital versus physical games, because digital, like you can charge the same amount of money for the same game forever, whereas in physical sales you'd trade in the game and it'd be worth less, and the older a game is, typically the cheaper it is, unless it's a really good game and they would hold its value. But like that type of market doesn't exist in digital. It's like you have to pay,
and not
it's
to
a
mention if
licensing
they
fee.
unlist the game, so if you haven't downloaded it, then you can't get
Or
it
delist.
anymore. Or delist,
Yeah.
sorry. So that's a whole other.
You can no longer get it.
You
Sometimes
you
they
paid
disable
for
it straight on your computer.
Yeah, but you can't get it anymore, even though you paid for it because it's been delisted. So,
Yeah.
That's a whole other. Like same thing with digital movies. Like wherever you bought it from, I think in the clauses it talks about like you're purchasing a license rental or whatever. So if that goes away, you technically don't own the movie. You just purchased the license to watch it for however long the storefront is in place. So
Yeah, and
Anyway,
they can get rid of it at any point and blah blah blah. Yeah, don't read the fine print of any contract. It's always depressing.
don't read what you sign. It's horrible.
Yeah, and if they
Also,
ban your
don't take
account,
legal advice from me.
if they ban your account for no reason because one of the customer server people got pissed off at you, then you have no recourse. You can't sue them. And if they do it to a lot of people, you can't sue them together in a class action. You have to do binding arbitration, which is you have to get their lawyers to talk to your lawyers, and that's a whole like multi-month, if not multi-year process. And then a judge or a mediator has to come in and actually, say what the decision is, and they could be paying for that arbitrator. So,
that sounds very specific, Clint.
They may just say you're screwed.
Do you have a thing to tell us? Are you in arbitration right now or something?
No. But that's what binding arbitration is. When you class action waiver means that you cannot hold a company accountable except through direct means between you and them through an arbitration process. I was just kind of describing what arbitration is. It sucks. I hate legal stuff though. Like it stresses me the hell out. Like if you've ever been served before, it's like it sucks a lot.
What's that lawyer video game? What's that called?
Ace Attorney.
Oh, Ace Attorney.
Ace Attorney, yeah, that's it. That's because it's just reminding me of all like the Act Man videos where he does like the Ace Attorney, like videos where he puts people on trials. I'm like,
objection.
I'm envisioning, I'm
Objection.
envisioning crack. Objection.
Objection. This process is stinky. I object. No. So let's move on to our last topic for the day before we get to our segments. Layoffs. So I actually was unprepared for this, even though I brought it up as a topic, and I don't remember exactly who has done it, but I think Epic Games was the first one to come out and announce like 800 positions are going to be laid off.
Yeah,
because
for reference, we still have jobs. No one here is affected. Just
we're not in the games industry. Yeah, it's sorry. The thing that I want to talk about was like layoffs in the game industry, and there's a lot of people talking on the internet about like what it means and how much it sucks, and they're kind of raging at companies right now for these crappy practices, and I was just kind of thinking about it because yeah, it's crappy. I think it happens a lot more than people think, like everywhere. Um,
Well, I know with
but
the
for context,
on the Epic side, I think from what I've been reading, a lot of the sentiment online seems to indicate that they blame Epic's Apple trial for a lot of this current round of layoffs and stuff. Because I know Fortnite is kind of, some of its profits are down a little bit, and they've been spending a lot of money on the lawsuit against Apple.
right? You said Project Liberty.
No. Is that what it's called? I'm just saying.
I think it's what it's called.
Okay, yeah, like that. That's spent. They spent a lot of money on those. They've lost some stuff. They've won some stuff. They had to pay this or that, and
That's the legal case where they were suing Apple for requiring you go through Apple payment.
Yeah, the App Store payment thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of lost a lot of money, and I think Fortnite sales are down.
Yeah.
What I was writing to as well.
Well, what happened with Fortnite is that they were serially charging people for Fortnite bucks without their knowledge. And since a lot of kids play it, and it's like the kid gets the parents' credit card or something, but it was worse than that. It wasn't just like kids spending money. It was accounts that had credit cards. They were just charging it or something like that. Anyway, they lost the lawsuit. They got fined like $100 million for it. Like it was
because it was where it was not apparent that you were making a recurring purchase kind of thing. People thought they were buying one time, if memory serves.
Oh yeah, I can join that lawsuit because my kid was doing that thing.
So bought Fortnite bucks. Okay.
Yeah, he
do it.
The
if there's a class action settlement, you're technically
pass. So I'm going to sign up for it too. I don't know. Well, yeah. And it's funny too because they've stopped playing Fortnite a lot too. And it feels like these live service games that rely on seasonal passes, it feels like they're not doing well. Diablo, Fortnite, Destiny, Doom. Wait, no, not Doom. Sorry, Diablo. I said Diablo already. A lot of these games, these seasonal structures doesn't seem, I don't know. I'm tired of it. I think people are tired of it.
Agree. I think there's, and y'all can tell me I'm wrong, but I think there's a couple of things in play with that. The first one being that I think people across the board, and I know I am, are tired of subscriptions. Everything's a subscription. Like you just look at like streaming videos and things like that. It used to be like, oh, I'm going to pay Netflix, but now there's like Disney, Netflix, Peacock, Hulu, HBO, or Paramount. Whatever HBO became. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so people are just tired of subscriptions, and so they're like, I don't. In those subscription games, they want you to play. Like it's not just like, oh, I'm going to binge for 16 hours. It's like, no, I've got to log in for like an hour or two every week for like 16 weeks, and you're like,
you got the daily bonuses and the weekly bonuses and the
and so I think that's a big part of it is people don't like subscriptions. And then I also think the live service games, it's like the Mines of Moria, right? The dwarves dug too deep, right? They got too greedy.
That would be amazing.
But and that's and their Balrog is that people are not playing anymore. People are not buying the battle passes anymore because people got burnt out. They made like the daily bonuses and everything like that. And so all of a sudden you've got these people, it's like, it's been 9 months and I have not seen sunlight because I've just got to I've got to play my game every day. And there's 3 games that I want to play. And they're just like, I can't do it anymore. And people put down games and never pick them back up. It's like for me with Destiny, I am probably not going to buy the last expansion. It's like the end of the saga. And I'm probably not going to buy it because, I haven't played Destiny in months.
Buy it.
See, you addicts over here.
I haven't played Destiny in months either. I don't think I played Destiny since Beyond Light. Is that the last one? Yeah, I haven't played it since a year ago. Yeah, I might have logged in February or something, but
Yeah,
like
the season just
we
ended.
talked about this last episode. But
Yeah, the season just ended, and all the action happened in some lore books that are very easy to miss. So good job, Destiny.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Typical.
Yes. Anyway,
Did Bungie lay off their writing staff?
hold on
Anyway.
a second. I think Matt derailed us. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so back to the layoffs. So I pulled up a list. We've got Firaxis Games laid off 30, CD Projekt Red, the Cyberpunk developers,
Wait,
laid
hold
off
on.
30.
Fire Axis. What game did they recently make? Didn't they do the Marvel Knights or Marvel XCOM game, which was a live service game as well? I think.
One moment, pulling it up.
Civilization. Yeah, Civilization.
Oh yeah, Civilization
series.
Yeah, and
Civ 5.
I thought they did Marvel like cinematic or
XCOM.
Marvel Knights or something like that.
Marvel Midnight Suns.
Yes, that one just came out, and that was also a live service game.
Yeah, that was the big one that
it did not
flopped.
do well. It did not do well, I don't think.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Kabam Games, Unity laid off 600 people. EA laid off 1,000. Ubisoft laid off 60. Take-Two laid off a bunch. They don't know how many. Riot Games laid off 46. Let's see. Meta laid off 10,000. And the reason it's on this list is Ready at Dawn as a game studio and Downpour Interactive were a large part of that. And FaZe Clan, what? They're not a games company.
Yeah, FaZe Clan.
They're just listing a bunch of esports companies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of layoffs.
And I think a lot of those companies were trying to bank in on this live service fad. You know, because I think all of them had different live service.
So here, let's ask a couple questions. Like, what do you guys think? Why do you guys think all these layoffs happened?
I have opinions on that. So, and my opinions are large. And this I think we kind of mentioned this earlier. This is not just necessarily a games studio specific thing. Like, this is a wider kind of thing across like tech in general. And I think honestly, what I'm going to talk about is specifically just like large corporations in general. I work for a very large corporation, and we have since 2020 laid off roughly a ton of people. And my opinion on it is there are like a couple different kinds of layoffs. Like in 2020, when all of a sudden, you know, because we worked in the aviation space a lot, and so like in 2020, when all of a sudden it's like there's like 3 planes that are in the air, you know, I get it. We have a whole bunch of people whose jobs effectively no longer exist, you know,
right.
And
expected revenue was up here, real revenue was down here. You got to bridge that gap somehow.
Yeah, well, it not even that, but I'm saying like literally we had like 20 engineers who maintained these systems on airplanes, and for a year, like what were we good? Like, you're just gonna let those guys sit there and do nothing? Like, I'm not saying I agree with it, but I fully understand like the business need to like, we either have to respect these guys, we've got to have them doing something productive, because we cannot just have them sit there and do nothing all day. Like, that is not, I don't want these people to lose their job, but the other option is having the company, like everyone, lose their job, you know? So we can either get rid of these people who are not doing anything because the industry has changed and changed so rapidly. Normally that stuff is slower, but obviously 2020 was a bit different. And so like that, those kind of layoffs I understand, and it sucks. Like, you never want to see somebody lose their job, but it is something that you have to do. Because of external forces. The other kind that I've seen, which it really pisses me off, is when corporate, like the C-suite, has made some decision where they're like, oh, we are really well known for making widgets. You know what we should do? We're going to make AI now, and we're going to be an AI company or whatever.
Blockchain.
And oh my God. Sorry.
Is blockchain still around?
We're going to build an Excel sheet that's built off the blockchain. It does the Wisdings.
I thought all the blockchain stuff have failed at this point, haven't they? Or are they still around?
No, they're still around.
Everyone,
because all the
everything
NFTs are worthless.
Crypto is down. NFTs are failing.
Worth
but those
nothing.
are only two technologies based off of blockchain.
Yeah, but
everyone wants to put everything on blockchain.
I feel like everything associated with blockchain is failing. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No, like
I wonder why that is. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh, God, that's a completely different conversation.
Come on,
yeah,
come on.
sorry.
Sixth tangent
Matt,
we've been
you
threatened
keep
with.
derailing us. Come on.
Why am I getting blamed for you?
It's not me. It's you.
But like when corporate, like the C-suite makes some decision where they like pivot and they invest like millions and millions of dollars into something, and then they're like, oh, this is not working out. We're losing money. Let's fire a whole bunch of people who are still being productive and making money. Let's fire all these ground floor employees. And then, and this is again just my experience, corporate still gets all their bonuses. The C-suite is still getting their millions of dollars of bonuses and things like that. And those layoffs are the kind that I think are very prevalent in the tech space, because pivoting a company in the tech space is very easy as opposed to like manufacturing, where it would take years to pivot.
Yeah. You can't just make assembly lines appear and like machining facilities, just automatically switch, because they don't have modular parts, because modular parts are very expensive. So you have to build custom assembly lines. You can't just make that evaporate or appear instantly. But tech, you just install something else, and then you have all these really expensive engineers switch to this language or this architecture, or hire a bunch of people to work on something new.
And it can literally be because one guy has decided, like the CEO decides, like, this is where we're going, and I hate that. Like, I cannot stand that when the CEO gets to make a decision which causes a year later all these people to lose their jobs and the company to be in financial peril, but the CEO gets to keep their job. They're the ones that made the bad decision, not those ground floor employees. And like, I think you see that a lot with like game companies like BioWare, that's like, oh, we're really well known for making story-driven games and everything like that. Let's make being like an adventure shooter flying around like Anthem, whatever.
I like
right,
Anthem.
and it's like that's. Oh my God! Of course you did.
There was so much potential. It was fun. When you weren't overheated.
Stop derailing us.
When you weren't
overheated. Reject the tangent. Yeah.
But I'll get off my soapbox now, so y'all can argue against or for me.
So there's another. I would say that there's a further reason, which you described, that C-suite keeping the bonuses, but the decision they made causing financial impact that like tanks the company, and they've got to make up that somehow. Well, that ends up happening is they have to meet a certain amount of profits because they're publicly traded. So their stock has to go up a certain amount, which means their revenue has to be at a certain ratio. It doesn't have to be a certain amount necessarily, although that does look bad when it's not as much as they projected. But what they can do is negotiate, their gross revenue. What was it? Gross revenue? What's the expenses adjusted?
EBITDA is probably what you're looking for.
Okay, yeah. So it basically, they reduce their human resource cost, which is all of their workers. So in order to meet a ratio of profit, they will X a bunch of positions, and then they don't have to spend any more money on those people. And in tech, that's especially games industry, it's 80, 90K, 100K, sometimes more, depending on the type of position per person. And so if you're killing 200 jobs, I mean, that's right there is like 200,000. It's, no small per year. Wait, 200? Did I just say 200,000?
2 million.
That's 2 million. Yeah. Sorry. That's 2 million. And if your total revenue stream is like 40 million per year or something, if you're a medium-sized tech company that's like that's 20% or 5% increased profit. So it's real bullshit. On the games industry side,
That
I think you're
technical
right.
analysis.
Yeah, no, it's spitballing
Real
and
bullshit.
broken. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. But on the games industry side, I think that's still happening because you have live services being pushed and pushed and pushed in microtransactions, and you've got the leaders of live services like Riot Games with League of Legends and Epic Games with Fortnite, and Destiny with live service shooters. There have been a lot of live service shooters that have been attempted in the last year. Like what was the one that just failed that
Destiny?
Microsoft bought? No, Destiny didn't fail. Destiny's the most successful live service shooter. Um,
Well, Sega just canceled their live service shooter looter game thing. I forgot what it was called.
Redfall.
But that wasn't.
Redfall was supposed to be a live service.
That was a live service?
It was, yes. There was a season pass.
Oh, I did not know
It was
that.
supposed to be multiplayer.
Yeah.
It was real light on story because you're supposed to go in and fight waves of stuff, and
yeah,
I don't know how they were supposed to compete. It was really poorly executed, but that was made by Arcane Games, which made Prey, which is an amazing narrative game that had multiple choices. You could completely change the outcome of the game. Like the ending would be different if you chose different things, and I would say it's like BioShock, like how that game worked out. And I can't remember the other Arcane game that's really well known, but they
Dishonored.
Just were told you have to work on a live.
Didn't they do Dishonored?
Oh, that's right, Dishonored.
Yep.
Yeah, and they were working on another one, but then they were like, "Nope, you got to work on Redfall now."
Yep.
And where are those executives that made that decision?
Now? On a beach somewhere? That's my guess.
Yeah, it's. I don't really know if I have much to say about it. More than like, yeah, it sucks. If you're concerned about video game layoffs, I think it's just been happening everywhere, though.
I definitely feel like a lot of the companies you mentioned that are laying off the people, they all had a whole slew of live service games that either failed or didn't meet expectations or were outright canceled. Like Ubisoft, I think that there was some game that they ended up canceling. Oh God, it was like some shooting game as well. I forget what it was called. They pushed back their Crossbones thing again. It's a live service game, but they're pushing it back because probably it's not ready or I don't know. But a lot of those companies you mentioned had live service games that aren't doing well, so they're letting people go. Because they're pushing for that pie of the live service game and they're not getting it. So I think that's just
I think one of the main issues is that the leaders in charge don't have a real accurate understanding of just how freaking expensive it is to lay somebody off. And I'm not talking about HR costs, like, paying benefits and severance packages and stuff like that. I'm talking about, like, what is the real cost of not having that person and that experience and their place in the development team and their place in the production cycle and their impact, positive or negative, or just positive, I guess, constructive. When you remove that person, you are fundamentally changing that team. And that's like, I guess from my point of view and from everything I know about development in general, like software development, it's one of those things, like I've said this before, game development's like a miracle. The fact that games get made is, I think, truly a miracle. Like when people make software, it's very difficult to scale and make large systems that are implemented correctly and efficiently and, working that such that they'll work well. When you have games that add to that, the engine level work, and then you have the game features, and then you have the menus, and you have the localization, you have the dialogue and the art and the skyboxes, which is like the environment, and then you have the characters and the animation. Like that's like dozens more teams and programs working together, all in concert with humans that communicate ineffectively. It's just that's just the nature of humans. It's like nobody's brain is connected, and the fact that they are coming together in an organization to build a game, and how people work around others, and it takes time to get up to speed, both technically and like socially, across communicating across teams and being productive. Like when you pluck people out of that system, of that studio, it's insanely expensive. And so it is the laziest, or maybe most misguided. I don't want to say lazy, because maybe they know this, but it is the most insidious choice to take people, not even talking about their livelihoods and the fact that they're playing with people's lives. Like, just to take people out of their system is literally making their company worse.
I know, but
so
I mean,
when they succeed, especially like when they report record profits and then they do layoffs still, it's like, it doesn't make sense. You are literally tanking your company. When you remove these people from the system, your company is an organism and you are chopping limbs off. You are cutting out organs.
Do you think that Bobby
you have
Kotick,
no idea if it's actually going to keep your company alive?
I mean, do you think that Bobby Kotick or Yves Guillemot or whoever other CEO from whatever company actually goes out into the trenches and spends any time with any of these development teams? I mean, I don't think so. Because like they would see that, but they don't. They're up in their towers on the backs of all these guys and girls or whoever. So, because I doubt they have ever gone down to the actual developers and coders. Because there's no need.
Well, I don't think you need to.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but
right, if you're a competent, if you're a competent leader that's been in the industry for at least 5 or 10 years, like at any level, you should understand how the very basics of how your company works.
But do they? I don't know if
and how people work. Well, I assume that they do, because they're like good enough at talking themselves into the job, right? And that requires some type of like social intelligence.
That I don't know that makes them good at running the company, though, because like, I'll be honest, I've definitely gotten jobs that I should not have gotten before, and it's because I interview well.
I guess my point was more, it's lazy to choose layoffs as the method of covering the gaps.
Agree.
I mean, what's the alternative? At the end of the year, when you're trying to make it up, right? You have to do it somehow, and you can't make enough changes to have results by the time the year ends.
I will disagree with that. So, because
I was going to say you have to take the fall, right? You have to take accountability. You have to be like, well, the policies we set out at the beginning of the year didn't have the effect that we wanted, and that's on me. Which no one's going to say that. No leader's going to say that unless they have integrity. And we all know that Bobby Kotick. I mean, you just go read some Glassdoor. Glassdoor reviews.
Don't read those. It's depressing. But this is the thing. So, and this is the biggest issue that I've had with a lot of these companies, is what you talked about previously, where what they're doing is they're trying to hit an earnings number. They're trying to hit a profits number, things like that, because they're trying to maintain the stock price. CEOs, the C-suite, their bonuses are not cash. They're in the form of stocks. And so it is in their vested interest to make sure that those stocks remain high.
Stay up. Got it. So it's not just taking your accountability. It's literally like their payout at the end of the year is dependent
exactly.
on
and that's the thing. Who gives a fuck about the stock price? Like, what if we're talking about, like, and I know that like employees,
the rest of the economy, I guess.
Well, but it's a shell game. Like, it's a fucking shell game. Like, because I understand that, like, because especially for me, like my company, a lot of our retirement is in company stock. It's like half of our retirement's in company stock, and so yes, we want
your own company's stock.
Yeah, it's unreal. Like, we'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Can you leave now, please?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
That's
Um,
not how retirement usually works.
it's very interesting, but but
Or
anyway,
should
so but
work.
the thing is, like, if the option is, do we lay off 100 people, 200 people, whatever it is, or do we let the stock dip 3, 4, 5%? Like, what kind of a question is that? Just let the stock dip. Like, if we're going to, it's like, oh, we misspent, or whatever, and we're going to be down this quarter. Just for sake, it's 3 months. Let the stock dip, come back, like, respect those people, figure it out. You don't need to just do mass layoffs so that your freaking bonus remains at like the 10 million or whatever. Like, don't, like, that's the thing about it, is all this stuff is a shell game with like the stocks and stuff like that, so that they can maintain their bonuses. Because I mean, I'm not getting paid in stocks. I don't care what the stock price is. Like, I've already accepted the fact that I'm going to work until I die. So, like, what do I care? Like, you know, just let people have their jobs. They're still being productive. They're still
Well,
generating
yeah.
revenue. Like,
And I guess this
and
is the part specific to video games where there are game companies, studios that do amazing stuff. And they are not built like all of these companies that are laying people off. They don't lay people off when they have a bad game. Well, I don't know about having a bad game, but like I guess the focus is completely on the creative endeavor. And when you, I don't think I have the argument fully formed, but there's the difference between focusing on that number and focusing on making a game that is wonderful and great. Like, the games industry is a creative industry, and that means it's doubly so important to have consistency in that team building, and how your organism of an organization, how strong it is, and having the right people in the job. And when you're plucking people out left and right, and literally making a freaking checkerboard of your company, you are only perpetuating the decline of that company. So,
but those quarterly
anyway.
profits.
I mean, it's crazy to think that the same company that makes Madden NFL 2024 made Fallen Jedi Order. It is crazy to think that the same company that made...
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Respawn made Madden 24?
Well, I thought Respawn was
EA,
owned...
the publisher.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sorry. EA. The company.
Oh, it's a publisher.
Yeah.
Publisher. Which is a little different. That's a little bit nuanced.
Yeah.
When we talk about publishers versus studios and how that works.
But I get what you're saying, Ronan, how, like, because obviously the monetization schemes, the culture of how you, like, actually make money on things is going to flow from the top. The ground floor dev is not the guy who's deciding, they're like, oh, what would make this game better? Microtransactions. It's coming top down. So yeah, I fully understand what you're saying.
Like, so I think, wasn't Fallen Jedi like considered a failure because it didn't meet their expectations or something like that?
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Because it didn't make all the money in the world.
But
anyway, this has been an uplifting topic.
There was one more thing I wanted to say about it, but I think it's gone. Oh, well.
Well, and really, I think, like, as, like, not fun as this topic is, I do think it is something that people need to be aware of, and we do need to talk about. Because, like, it is, it does, like you said, it affects the whole company, and the games that we enjoy, like, if these companies continue these practices, are just going to end up being worse. They're going to be, Cyberpunk 2077 at release, where, like, they're broken because they don't have the people in place and things like that, because they needed, quarterly profits to be better or whatever. I'm not saying that's why Cyberpunk was the way it was.
Yeah, Cyberpunk's a bit of a different case, but it's still a little bit. It's got the same.
It was the
elements.
first game I could think of that was broken at launch.
Well, No Man's Sky is kind of similar
Starfield,
story.
why not?
Yeah, Starfield, No Man's Sky, same sort of deals.
I remember what I was going to say. So this is a touchy and somewhat political topic, which I don't usually.
I think we're in that
you've gone from hobos to guns. I think we're fine.
Stop it. Get out of here!
Children,
Bark, bark, bark.
children with gun, mind,
Bark, bark,
mind
bark.
you, children.
No. I was gonna say that I used to be against unions in tech. Like I just wasn't for it. It seemed like they were unnecessary. It seemed like developers have more power than typically a lot of workers in other industries, and so it was unnecessary. So unions trying to form and like take a portion of your income to be up there and make things work less efficient sounded like a lose-lose, right? But now that we're developing into an industry, or maybe it's always been this way and I'm just just been stupid, which there's always a little bit of that going on. Like I feel like the power distribution between a worker in tech and specifically in game dev and the executives at the top, where they have that choice to pad out their bonuses based on stock, making sure the stock doesn't dip so that their bonuses don't dip 5% or whatever the frick, right? And they make that choice to ruin or heavily impact hundreds of people's jobs and livelihoods. At the end of the day, like that's an imbalance, and like the only answer for it that I know of is like unionization. So like unions, it's important to remember, and I want to stay somewhat apolitical, so I'm going to just say like it's complex, nuanced topic, but I will say that unions have done a hell of a lot of good. Like 8-hour days, 40 hours weeks, those exist because of unions, and overtime exists because of unions. So like obviously they can do some good. So I kind of am hoping that unions become a thing in game dev, because I really do believe that an organization, a creative software organization like a game studio, is an organism, and it works only as good as it has, as long as the people in it have worked together. Like you have to develop together and grow together in order to make the best product possible. And so we kind of need to protect that. I feel like unions for game dev would probably produce better games. But that's an interesting topic, maybe something we should talk about in the future. But it was just something that I thought about. And if you have an opinion, please comment in, if you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, come to the YouTube channel and comment, because it's like, how do you feel about unions? How do you feel about layoffs? And if any of us are wrong, please come tell us. We're open to new ideas and alternative opinions.
You can tell Clinton Emiliano, I will fight you in the comments.
Matt, get out of the parking lot. Put your knife away.
I thought
I know you live in Texas, but this is not how we do it.
I thought that was gonna be controversial.
We give guns to our children too.
Oh no!
Sorry. Go ahead, Emiliano.
I thought you're making a controversial statement. That wasn't controversial. Come on.
I think unions are controversial nowadays, unfortunately.
Yes, they are.
I guess there's two ways of looking at unions. They either help someone from management, or they protect lazy people. And
there's more than that. More ways to look at unions.
But I feel those are the two.
I think
those are the two.
That's the word.
Those are the two main things. Like either they're there to protect
detractors,
or they're there where all the lazy people hide behind them and don't get fired. And I think it's kind of I think both are kind of true depending.
Well, I have been in a union before, and I have totally seen that. Like people think they can hide behind it. It really depends on like how the collective bargaining agreement works.
Yeah.
And so if you're going, if you're thinking about unions, like look into that, research that, because there needs to be a power balance.
Yeah.
Not a power imbalance, whether it's on the union side and are we overprotecting people, or is there a disciplinary path?
Yeah. I mean,
which there should be.
I am for unions, although I do agree that there are people that take advantage, and a lot of times they're not. It's easier to let it slide than to try to make a ruckus. It seems like. Anyway.
Yeah, that's a topic that can be that can be another hour-long conversation if we wanted to have it. So
Yeah.
But yeah, well, I don't know. I have opinions. Like, if y'all can't tell, I am what's known as an opinionated person. But yeah, I think I've made my stance kind of clear, and like I don't need to beat that horse any deader than it is.
Okay.
Cool. Well, I think this has been a long episode this week. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for hanging out with us. You can check us out if you're listening to this, we're on YouTube as well at Winning Sometimes. We're on Twitter at W Sometimes Show, and you can email us at winningsometimes@show. Is it? Shit. What's our email again?
Show at winningsometimes.com.
There we go. Thank you. So yeah, you can reach out to us, and if you have any questions or suggestions or insults,
argue with us in the comments.
Just address them to Matt, and he definitely won't fight with you.
Fair warning, I am a troll, so whether I believe it or not, I'm gonna argue with you.
Oh no, okay. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.